welcome everyone to this very important workshop. We are very pleased with all the SWIP team plus KPMG team to welcome you to this workshop to handle with a very important question: how can you prepare for the EU CSRD, I mean the EU new regulation? We have received so many people asking for attending this workshop, meaning that there is a huge interest regarding this important question. So today, if you can go to the other side, today we are going to give you some essential information regarding this big issue. First of all, we are going to try to provide you with the latest information regarding the coming regulation, especially the CSRD regulation. As you may know, this is a regulation still under process, still under construction, but we have received the past last week the new delegated act, meaning the new framework of this CSRD regulation. So today we are able to provide you with the latest information, and for that we give the floor to KPMG to give you those explanations. After that, we are going to handle with a very important point is how the digitalization could be a way to address this CSRD challenge. It's a big challenge. The new regulation, as you will show, is very complicated, but we have a way to handle with this new regulation is to follow a data approach, to rely our way to handle with the regulation thanks to the digitalization. And for that, we're gonna explain to you what is the SWIP for compliance solution, what is the offer of SWIP to enable you to be compliant with the regulation and to handle with the complexity of the regulation. So the SWIP team will provide you with a presentation of this SWIP for compliance solution. And last but not least, we're gonna have a conclusion and a Q&A session, very important to be sure that every question could be answered, and to be sure that at the end of this workshop you could have all the information you wanted to receive and all the needed inputs as well. For that, as you can see, we have a very good panelists. First of them is Jeremie Joos, partner and co-head of ESG Center of Excellence at KPMG. So as I told you, Jeremie will give you all the latest information regarding the CSRD regulation. It's a big issue, and thanks a lot, Jeremie, for having accepted to participate to this workshop. After that, I will give the floor to Helene Malaurie plus Julien Picaud, who are working at SWIP, member of a SWIP team, and who are going to provide you with the role of the digitalization and the SWIP for compliance solution. Thanks a lot for attending this workshop, very important one. We are fully aware about the expectation you could have, and we hope that this workshop will be very fruitful. Jeremie, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Julien, for your introduction, and thanks to you also for inviting me. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon to discuss CSRD. As you said in introduction, Julien, the CSRD is a very new discipline. So I'll try in the next 10 minutes to make it as clear as possible. What does it cover now? What changed over the last 2 weeks with the issuance of the draft delegated act by the European Commission, and also what's ahead of us in terms of regulation. So first, as you may know, the end game of CSRD is really to standardize the ESG reporting to make sure that the European environmental and social ambition is well on track, and that both investors and stakeholders have a fair and transparent information to make decisions, and fair information on non-financial performance. So it is structured around, first, the 3 pillars of ESG: environment, social, and governance, based, as I said, on the European objectives around environment and social. And second, it's also structured around general information to be provided, meaning a framework that define, if I would say, all the chapters that will structure your non-financial performance reports, your sustainability reports by 2025 for the first wave of implementation. It is made of 82 disclosure requirements, meaning that this is all the things you would have to disclose, and which is then detailed into a maximum of 1,000 KPIs. Now, I just stop here one moment. That doesn't mean that every corporate, financial or non-financial undertakings will have to disclose all that information. Why? Because the 3 pillars of disclosures are subject to what we call a double materiality assessment. That means that based on the materiality of your issues around environment, social, or governance, you have to select the most pertinent, the most powerful KPIs and disclosure requirements to build your sustainability report. And this is, by the way, we can move to the next slide. This is, by the way, maybe one other, if I may. This is, by the way, one of the biggest changes that has been made by the document issued, the draft delegated act, issued by the European Commission in the last 2 weeks. In the first draft that we had from the EFRAG, two disclosure, 2 standards were not subject to materiality assessment, and now everything is subject to materiality assessment. And this is very important because it is really, for us, it is really a way to select what is material for your company. And this will help to have something which is stronger and more coherent with regards to your issues. So this is the first change that occurred over the last 2 weeks. Second is that depending on your size, there is more transitional provisions, meaning that some topics can be disclosed in the year 2 of your disclosure, not necessarily on the first year of disclosure. For instance, some disclosure requirements on social or biodiversity. And if your company is below 750 employees, there is also some transitional provisions. This is very, very important. The third is that the number of voluntary disclosures increased in the text. As you may know, in the text, you have the shall disclose and the may disclose. And so the may disclose really increased in this document. For instance, the biodiversity transition plans or some metrics regarding the non-employees of your company. The third major change is around flexibility. There is more flexibility for certain mandatory data, especially around governance. Fourth major change is on the coherence with the EU legal framework, meaning that the European Commission adapted some requirements to be more aligned with other directives that are under preparation, such as the whistleblowing directive, to make sure that ESRS, especially G1 in this case, are fully aligned with other regulation under preparation by the European Commission. And the last but not least is that there's an increasing interoperability with global standards that are under preparation to make sure that there's a closer collaboration, especially with ISSB, and that has especially an impact on some ESRS like social or environment. So if we go one step back, thank you, Carlos. What about no, one step back, please. Yeah, excellent. What about the calendar? What about the timeline? So first, as Julien said in his introduction, the text is open to consultation. So that means that until early July, all the financial and non-financial undertaking and all the stakeholders can propose some amendments to the text. Then until end of August, the EU Commission will work to finalize the text, and then the directive will also have to be declined into the French law. The first wave of implementation will be for the financial and non-financial undertakings that are already falling under the NFRD directive. And there will be a second wave of application on the fiscal year starting on January the 1st of 2025 for the mid-sized companies over 250 employees, and then on the listed SMEs for fiscal year starting January the 1st of 2026, and finally on the fiscal year starting on January the 1st, 2028, on all the subsidiaries of non-EU companies that are operating on the European territory and that are over some threshold, especially in terms of turnover, 150 million euro turnover. So we are, as you know, in a step-by-step calendar. And for the first company that fall under the regulation, they have to be ready in 2024 for a first disclosure in 2025. And during that time, there will also have some amendments, especially we are waiting by the end of 2024 the adaptation for small and mid-sized companies to have a regulation which is more adapted to small and mid-sized companies. Maybe one last word on what's ahead, because we have if we can go to next, please. Yes, excellent. Thanks, Carlos. So what's ahead around the transposition? This is the last schedule that we received from the French government. So by the end of this year, this fiscal year, we should receive the transposition into French law that will enter into force on the 1st of January 2024, especially for the first companies that will be involved in the CSRD. Maybe one last word is that you probably heard that there will be another major change with the CSRD. Is that now all the companies that will be subject to the CSRD will have to have level of assurance, meaning that they will have to audit, make audit their non-financial disclosures. Today, this is with a limited assurance, but until the next 3 to 4 years, the level of assurance should be higher and move to reasonable assurance. That will have an impact on the scope of data and the scope of controls that will be run by your auditor. And so that will have some impacts, and I think that Helene and the team will probably explain that also. That will also have impacts around internal control and our data and the quality of data. I think we are still in the time, so hand over to Helene and the team for the next slide.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I'm gonna give the floor to Julien Picaud. Just to sum up, because it's very important to well understand the situation and the regulator framework. First of all, this new regulation is very important. It's part of the Fit for 55 EU policy. It's part of the environmental ambitions coming from the European Commission. So it's part of something very important, how to tackle with the climate change. Secondly, this regulation is quite complicated. Complicated first because it's a big one, a huge number of metrics, a huge number of companies who will have to be compliant with it, and with a time schedule not so easy to understand. Some of them will be concerned next year, beginning of next year. Some of them will be concerned just 1 year later. Third point, this regulation is still under process, but now we will know exactly what could be the final text very soon, meaning that we have the consultation under process, and in the coming weeks or coming months, we will know the final text. So meaning that for sure, we don't know every items, every metrics that we will have to populate, but in a couple of weeks, it will be the case. And last but not least, one of the most important criteria you have to keep in mind is the auditability system of this new regulation. This is very important because it's gonna be a game changer for all of you folks, corporate and financial institution. It will be a huge change. Tomorrow, all the no financial data will have to be audited. Even if it's a limited insurance at the beginning, a couple of years after, it will be a reasonable system, meaning that it will be exactly the same request for the no financial data than for the financial data. And for that, we are totally convinced that the best way to handle with these criteria, this complexity, is to have this digitalization approach. And I will give the floor to Julien Picaud to explain it more into details.
Exactly. Thanks, Julien. So for all of the reasons that Jeremy and Julien have been covering earlier, like the CSRD is really becoming a huge data problem that we're able to solve with a software platform like Sweep. The information is in high volume, also spread across your entire organization, across IT systems as well. For that reasons, you need to involve various teams from sustainability and ESG to HR to operations department as well. Not to mention as well the risk and compliance teams and the finance and internal controls. All of that drives the need for a much stronger collaboration across departments that can be facilitated through technology. Speaking of controls, we'll explain later on how automated controls in a software can make the compliance process much easier and more reliable. That's a crucial node, especially with regards to the CSRD. So without taking too much time on this slide, I will hand over to Helene to illustrate some of the key opportunities that are triggered by the CSRD. So we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julien. Hello, everyone. So indeed, yeah, when we design, the Suite for Compliance offering and solution, we had one key objective in mind, which was to change those key challenges into opportunities and positive changes, and to simplify the whole process for you, so that you could concentrate actually on driving your ESG actions rather than just pulling together a reporting. So what was important to start with was to drive the strong collaboration which will be required to make sure that all of your stakeholders, internal, as Julien mentioned, but also external with your suppliers and your external auditors, will be able to work together on a unique platform. So on that platform, you will have all of your data, and each of your stakeholders will have a role to play. Some of them will be the data collectors, some of them will be monitoring the data, some others, like your internal control teams or external auditors, will be controlling the data into that unique platform, rather than working probably today in silos with Excel files, with different solutions. You will have one unique platform. And this will, as a result, allow you to align your whole company towards common ESG goals and targets, because you will have a single view of all your ESG metrics. First of all, they will be accurate, so you'll have good equipment to drive efficiently your ESG actions, but also you will have all your company able to have a view, visibility over those targets and goals. And this solution also, we wanted it to guide you towards the compliance by making sure that you follow the right steps. To make sure that you're CSRD compliant, you need to work on your materiality. You need to collect all of your material indicators and then to put together the report. So by providing you accurate data and making sure that you collect all of the required data points, we are guiding you towards this full compliance to ESG regulations. And finally, ultimately, we wanted to simplify the whole process for you also to be able to focus more time and energy on your core business growth and innovation.
In a nutshell, what we're saying here is that by digitalizing your compliance reporting process, you're first going to reduce the vast amount of time that will need to be spent on data collection by over 60%, and in various cases it would be even more than that. Remember, as mentioned by Jeremie, that based on your materiality assessment, we are facing up to 1,000 indicators that will have to be collected across your organization and teams. Then our automated controls not only ensure you of the highest level of quality of your data, but it also helps to reduce the time that your internal controls team will have to spend to verify each and every data points and make sure that they are of the highest quality standards. And to add up to that, external auditors like KPMG, we also be able to fasten the process using SWIP as the single source of truth of all CSRD indicators to run their audits and make sure that they are taking each and every relevant data points with the supporting documents that are available turnkey in the platform. So the use of a digital platform does also reduce the risk of non-compliances and the respective level of penalties. But almost more importantly, you're also able to reduce the risk of greenwashing. The one thing that you want to avoid is to be up in the press after the first publication of your CSRD report. You'll be able, obviously, to avoid backslashes that can have a direct impact on your company's reputation, but also valuation, and not only if you are a public company, obviously. So whether you're a large or smaller company, we all have customers and key stakeholders to which we have to report to and provide transparent information with regards to sustainability metrics. So it's truly important to demonstrate that you are ahead of the pack, ahead of your competitors with regards to your acting on your ESG performance, so that you can truly turn that to a competitive advantage as you're responding to RFPs, as you are running in your market. So leveraging the right technology platform can really truly make your CSRD reporting process simple and enable you to focus on your core business and keep growing as a business to keep innovating as well. So now I will hand over to Helene.
Yes, thank you, Julien. And I will talk to you about the methodology that we have put in place to develop our solution and making sure that we provide, again, a simplified reporting and a user-friendly experience. So the methodology is split into 4 main steps. The first one is the data collection, so the collect. As you may know, there are more than 1,000 metrics potentially to collect from all the EU affiliates. And we need to coordinate all those efforts. So we are providing you with the possibility to send surveys to collect all this data to your internal teams, to your suppliers, customers, and also to integrate data which already exist, that you already have from other IT systems. So we are really willing to avoid manual data collection that you may have today in place. That's the collect part. The second part is the compute, because as you may know, the data that is required, the metrics which are required for the CSRD, requires some computation methodologies for some of them. On the carbon emissions, for instance, we'll have, and we will turn your activity data into carbon emissions equivalents, or on the biodiversity as well. And on other environmental and social metrics, there are some calculations which are required, and the platform is providing that to you. Then there is a govern part, which is absolutely key because it includes all the aggregation of your data points from your different affiliates, and depending on the perimeters that you have determined. We are also providing you with all these dashboards, graphs that Julien has presented for you to monitor the performance of your metrics and making sure that you're well equipped to drive your ESG actions. And finally, we are going back to this auditability requirement with providing you with advanced audit trails, with validation workflows, with data quality checks, supporting documents, specific auditors' profiles, user profiles, etc. And finally, the last step, the last step of the methodology, the reporting. So the report issuance itself, which will be issued in the CSRD format, the format that I will present a bit later, and which will be uploaded automatically on the regulatory platform. So we are really willing to avoid any manual errors and making sure that you have a consistent report compliant with the regulation. We can move, please, to the next slide. So this is the structure of the report, and it's a bit small. I hope that you can still see it, which is provided by the EFRAG to give you a clear idea, a concrete idea of what is expected. What is important to mention is that this section will now enter into the management report, so will be close to the financial information, and will be split into 4 parts, which correspond to the different categories of the ESRS. So the general information with the ESRS 2, the general disclosures. The second part will be about all the environmental standards with the ESRS E1 to E5. Then the social information with ESRS S1 to S4, and finally the governance information. So all the governance that you have put in place around your ESG actions. I think we can now move to the next slide and giving back the floor to Julien.
Thanks, thank you, Helene. So here's a quick recap on the way software technology and a solid services firm can help you make the CSRD reporting process simple. So as you understood, Sweep is the one-stop shop to go through your ESG compliance process. We're here to facilitate the data collection of your material indicators. We apply automated controls to ensure the highest level of quality of your data, making sure that you're also saving time along the process through the internal control and external audit. And we're bringing the full transparency across all ESRS indicators. We obviously do facilitate the report generation in its very standard version, and facilitate also the electronic submission to the official ESAP platform. So that's some of the key points that we can keep in mind on some of the key Sweep capabilities, and then I will let Jeremie illustrate how KPMG can help there as well.
Yes, because many times we work shoulder to shoulder with you, and we really have the capabilities to work on the whole, I would say, value chain of the CSRD, starting from a double materiality assessment, which is, as I said in introduction, really a core assessment to really define your disclosure requirements, and then the gap analysis, meaning all the gaps between your current disclosures and the various reporting standards of CSRD. This is very important just to identify where the gaps are, what would be the effort to be compliant with this new regulation, and what are all the whole action plan to put in place for the next months to upgrade data, processes, internal control, governance, organization, and so on. Then we also work on the implementation of CSRD from an organizational and process design point of view, but also internal control point of view. And of course, we can help in the tool selection and the software implementation, for instance, Sweep for compliance. And of course, as we are both advisors and auditors, we can, of course, work on the assurance reports, including a dry run. This is something that we start to discuss with some of our clients, having dry runs just to make sure that our clients will be fully ready and fully understand all the new requirements on the assurance reports of the sustainability report. Thanks. Now handing over to the Sweep team.
Thank you, Jeremie. So we are going to send you a quick poll question in the chat, so you can take a moment to take part of it as we are to kick off the Q&A section. So yeah, please have a look at what's showing up on screen right here. Would you like to be contacted to continue the discussion about the CSRD? So moving on to the Q&A, if we starting off with a question we got in the chat: is the CSRD and carbon module interconnected? Is the data from the carbon footprint automatically linked to the ESRS E1? Absolutely. We as a reminder, as we were mentioning earlier, being the one-stop shop or the single source of truth for the CSRD, and being as a Sweep the leading provider on carbon management as well, we absolutely make sure that you're not duplicating efforts to handle that, and we be putting this information automatically for you via the platform. We have another set of questions that are more for Jeremie, and maybe we can start off with a first question. So, being an American company of 20,000 plus employees, in the European subsidiary being over 500 employees, Is that correct that they will have until 2028 to
yes. Yes, for the fiscal year starting January the 1st of 2028, and with a disclosure with a sustainability report to be issued in 2029. So that's correct.
Okay, good. The next question is, does a CSRD apply to UK companies? And does the EU offer the templates for it?
It applies to UK companies as non-EU companies. So this will apply to UK companies by 2028. As for the American company we discussed just a few seconds before. Offers any templates? Well, yes, because as described, as I said before, and as also Helene explained it a few minutes before, you have a structure which is defined in the ESRS2, meaning that there is all the chapters are defined and their content are defined. So this is the framework, and then you have a second framework, which is each ESRS defining clearly what are the disclosure requirements. So what you have to explain in terms of policies, but also have to explain in terms of results through KPIs that are clearly defined in the text. Okay. And on the third question, actually, I think there's also a question on the ratification by every country. Just to make it clear, the CSRD, the directive, has to be ratified by each EU country by the end of 2024, meaning that it has to be turned into a national regulation. But for the ESRS, so the document that has been issued by the European Commission mid-June, this will not be the case because this is a delegated act, meaning that this will entry into force without any translation in local laws. Okay, so the CSRD will have to be translated into local law, but the ESRS, meaning all the definitions, all the KPIs definitions, all the disclosure requirements, will not have to be translated into the law. The main things that will have, in fact, translated into local laws in the CSRD will especially be the rules around auditing and some specific application for local laws.
Great. I think that we are about time, so we are just exceeding the timeline for this webinar. Thank you so much. Julien, did you want to give a few final words?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Jeremie, Julien, Helene for this very fruitful presentation. As you have seen during this presentation, I mean, we have big issues, and even if we don't know exactly all the metrics, all the triggers related to this new regulation, we know so far what will be the main topics. Even if one member state will not ratify it, the application of the delegated act will happen in every EU country, meaning that it will not depend on the member state position. It will have to be applied everywhere within the EU. And the spirit of this new regulation is to be applied as well by foreign companies working within the EU area, and for sure, especially when they have subsidiary, but more roughly speaking, when they're gonna have some employees inside. Meaning that at the end of the day, the purpose of this EU regulation is to be very ambitious and is to be applied by a maximum of companies, even if the smallest company will have a kind of transition period to be sure to be able to be compliant. And the second part of this workshop was to present you the possibility to be compliant with this ambitious regulation. And as you have seen, we are totally convinced that the best way to be compliant is to use a data approach, to use a digitalization approach, just because it will be needed because of the auditability of the data. There was a question in the channel asking who will be the auditors, who will audit the data. It will be the regular auditors. I mean, your financial auditors tomorrow will have to audit as well the no financial data. So it will be exactly the same process. And because of this auditability, for sure, the data approach is very relevant. And secondly, because of the complexity, the day when you will have to populate more than 200, 300, sometimes 700 of metrics, the only way to handle with that is to have a data approach as well. That's why we have developed this Sweep for Compliance solution, and that's why we wanted to present it today to everyone. If you want to have any deep dive, any additional information, any answers to additional questions, don't hesitate to contact us. Here you have a QR code to have a direct contact, but you can get in touch with us as well by connecting into our website. It's another possibility as well. So don't hesitate to contact us to have additional information and to have a demo about all the features of the product we have developed. Today it was some screenshot. It was an overview of the potentiality of the product, but if you want to deep dive, if you want to have a pure demo of the product, don't hesitate to contact us. Once again, thanks to all of you, especially the guest speakers, especially Jeremie, for attending the panel as well.
A pleasure.
And thanks a lot to the organizer as well, Anna Maria and Carlos. Have a good afternoon and see you very soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.